Luana Ribeira from Dauntless PR. Just been on the online prosperity show. What a great experience. I could have stayed chatting all day. We've been talking about all things to do with PR, particularly how PR creates safety and security in business, getting over social anxiety to be able to shine, and why we need to be in the spotlight to create maximum global impact.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have a truly inspiring guest joining us. Now, Luana, how are you doing today?
I am fabulous. Thank you for having me on. It's really good to be here.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. Like I was saying earlier on, I'm a little bit starstruck. I mean, I've heard about you, seen you and seen the work of your hands. And today we actually get you to be on the show. So I'm really, really excited for what we're going to create today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, for those that are wondering, if you've ever felt like you're stuck in a rut or been terrified of putting yourself out there, I think today you're in for a treat. Our guest today, Luana, is actually a best-selling author and the powerhouse behind Dauntless PR, a company that's helped countless clients double their business and shine in the media spotlight. And if you've seen the amount of esteemed guests that we've had on the Online Prosperity Show, some of them are actually coming from the stables of Dauntless PR. And today we've gotten the mother hen herself from her busy schedule to actually just come and address us. So we actually should pay attention, pen and paper in hand, just so that we can actually jump onto this captivating story, because I feel like Luana's journey is captivating as much as it is empowering. She actually battled a crippling social anxiety, and now she is actually conquering the PR world, and she created a six-figure business way before she even had a website for it. And if that's not an achievement, I don't know what is. And as you would notice, her story actually reads like a script straight out of an epic movie. And if you think that's impressive, wait until you hear her passion for PR that is actually filled by her own experiences and the work that she was doing in performing arts, and also her love for Veronica Roth's trilogy. I think she's written 3 now, right? And one of them is Divergent. And yes, you heard that right. Her agency name, actually, Dauntless PR, was influenced by a fictional faction that actually inspired her to embrace her inner courage. Now, I want you to buckle up and dive into the world of Luana's world of PR, magic, media influence, and fearless entrepreneurship. And when we're done, stand in a straight line so you can receive your autograph, because this is a luminary in her own right. Now, Luana, before I start mincing my words, and you can tell I'm a bit nervous because it's not every day that you get royalty, especially in the PR world, gracing our show here.
Introduction, but now I'm going to have to somehow live up to all of that.
All right, you got me. Now tell us a little bit about your journey so far, especially becoming this PR powerhouse that you have now become.
Well, it started, when I was a kid, like nobody would ever see me doing the kind of things I'm doing now. I was very much the shy, quiet kid who stood by herself, who wouldn't talk, wasn't able to talk. Like my throat would just close up whenever I was speaking to somebody who wasn't a close friend or family member. Yet somehow I felt drawn to the spotlight, and I'd never dare share that with anyone. At that point, it seemed absolutely bizarre, but I dreamed of being on stage, being on screen. So it just confused me, and I was being pulled all over the place. So it's been a journey and a half to go from there. I started off going into dancing. I had a moment when I think I was 14, and I was with my friend who was due to go on stage and dance for a show, and she wouldn't go on because she was nervous, and the organisers were talking, what we're going to do, what we're going to do. And I don't know what came over me, but I just walked straight up to them. I guess this was my first Dauntless moment. I walked straight up to them and I just said, I'll go on. And everyone looked at me like, you? And I went, yeah. So off I went with my friend's costume on. I didn't have a routine, of course. I just improvised. And that moment changed my entire life, because that's the first time I felt seen. It's what confirmed, yes, this is where I belong. I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but I belong in the spotlight. And it went from there. So I continued with dancing. And then from there, I moved into acting. And then standing up as myself as a personal brand was yet another layer to peel off. So it's been a journey and a half. But PR wise, I started in 2011 when I worked for an agency. Now, this agency was outstanding in so many ways. There was a real community feel. There was a real sense of belonging. It was full of people who felt like they hadn't been understood before, but all of a sudden we were all together. There was a real team spirit, everybody rooting for each other, which I loved. And I learned so much about PR. However, as time went on, some things started emerging. There was a lot of smoke and mirrors. They weren't exactly being honest with the clients. And when I questioned this, I was told, well, that's just how it is in PR. Why are you trying to ruin their confidence? And I was so confused because, I was their biggest cheerleader. I wanted nothing more for them to succeed. And I left, and eventually I danced around it for many, many years. And then finally I set that agency closed down, by the way, not long after I left. And then it was years after that when I was talking to my business coach. I'd opened an acting academy by now, and naturally I was getting myself and my actors booked for all sorts of things in the media, not giving it a second thought. And I remember my business coach saying to me, you should be doing this as a business. And me saying, my reaction was, I can't do that. It's easy. Back when, for whatever reason, I had associated suffering with success. I thought you couldn't be successful at something unless you suffered for it. So that was my belief. And it took me a while to get over that. And then eventually in 2018, I started going into PR, and then it was 21 when we rebranded to Dauntless, and I hired a team of specialists to refine the system that I'd created while I was living in a ditch, by the way. I forgot to mention that part. So I had a really confusing and tough time while I was going through divorce. I'd been spectacularly ripped off, not by my ex, but in business. And there was a lot of things going on, and I felt like I'd lost everything, and I didn't know what was going on. It was very public as well, because I was acting at the time, and I was talking to a journalist about a film, and I slipped into what was going on in my personal life. Now, at that moment, I could very well have backtracked and asked her not to include it, but I just thought, let's just go with it. Let's see what happens. What happened was absolute mayhem. And I was really I ended up, going on talk shows, documentaries, reality shows, press, in the UK, nationally, then internationally, then it was being translated into several different languages, and it was just all over, you know, because the story was something that wasn't really being talked about much at that time. But because I was going through this divorce and I wasn't ready for that type of visibility. I wasn't prepared for it. And this is another reason why I ended up setting up the business that I did, because I wanted to set up an agency that wasn't just an agency. We didn't just want to get people booked for media. We wanted to work with them before, during, after. We wanted to make sure they were ready, they were prepared, they knew what they were getting into, they knew how to come out of any situation with their reputation gleaming. We wanted to make sure that these people, and we only work with people who are making amazing, impactful things happen in the world, because we want to improve the world, you know. We wanted to give them a voice, we wanted to give them a platform. So that's why it ended up being more than just PR. And what I did was, I wasn't ready for that level of visibility. I couldn't find the support. I was phoning every agency I could, and I kept getting the same response. And that response was, you know, I was just saying, help me navigate this whole thing. And they were saying, but you're getting your own bookings. Like, there's nothing more we can do for you. And I was saying, yeah, but it's not help with the bookings that I need. I can do that. That's easy. I needed help because I was too close to the story. It was too emotional. I needed somebody to hold my hand and tell me I was doing okay, or tell me what I needed to be doing differently. So I created it and I hired a team of specialists who are all experts in various topics. I came up with this system because I ran away. I ran off to Portugal and I lived in a forest in a ditch. It was a VIP ditch. It was a VIP ditch. It had a bed and a polytunnel, but it was a ditch. And I stayed there for 3 months, and I walked an hour and a half each way every day to go charge my devices so that I could work on my business. And I did that for 3 months out of choice. My family were in a house nearby that I was paying for. It's not like a rags to riches kind of thing. But I just felt like I really needed that time to heal and to figure out who I was and what my purpose was. And Dauntless PR is what came out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, it's like a a script out of a movie, really, the way it all sort of came together. Now, I like how you saw a situation and you literally solved for that, and created a business out of that, because so many people would have been like, oh, woe is me, let me not put myself into any further public scrutiny, based on the situation that you were going through. Now, question for you: is any PR good PR? Because that's what people say. Any publicity is it's good for you, given what you have just told us, and the scenario of when things go wrong in the media. Some PR you'd not wish upon your enemies on it.
That's such a great question. I don't believe that all PR is good PR. I don't. I believe that good PR is good PR. PR that shows you as the person that you want to be perceived as by, your ideal clients. Not so much the general public, if you're a personal brand, but your ideal clients. A lot of people say, well, I don't care what anybody thinks, but if you don't care what your ideal clients think, then you're going to have a hard time in business, So I absolutely am for completely being authentic, real, standing up as your true self, and having the PR shine a light on that. So I wanted to say something, and it's completely escaped me now. I started going off on one. Could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people just think any PR is good PR. Yes,
right. Yeah. So no, I do believe that good PR is good PR, but there's things that people perceive negative comment on it, and you could think, oh my god, my reputation's in tatters, and it doesn't mean that at all. Doesn't mean that at all. Voices are always going to be louder, and that's why people struggle so much when they go into visibility, because they hear these negative comments. Like, I used to get it a lot, and it's partly why I wasn't ready at that time to deal with that level of visibility, because I was taking comments to heart, like people telling me they were fed up of seeing me all over the place. Well, what a compliment! Now I know it's a compliment, but back then I was like, oh my god, I'm annoying people, you know, and I was really, really concerned about it. So it's been a huge, you know, journey, and a lot of realization coming into effect to be doing this today and to be able to help clients with that as well. Every time we rise in visibility, there is going to be more negative voices than positive. And that's for several reasons. So they're louder because if somebody disagrees with something, then they're going to be more inclined to comment. If somebody agrees with something, they're more inclined just to say, oh yeah, I agree with that, because they're not triggered. So they're not feeling that, oh, I've got to comment right now. And also, if this story is something they agree with, they just think, well, you know, that's the opinion, so I've got nothing else to add. But the main thing is that they don't want to attract drama, you know, they don't want to get into drama. They're busy creating their lives and doing great things in the world themselves. And they don't want to. Oh, sorry, am I back? I think I lost you for a little bit there. So there's they don't want to get into drama, you know, they just want to get on with their lives and focus on doing amazing things. So sometimes it can be a bit like, oh my god, all of these people are saying all these negative things about me, but all really it's showing is that you're cutting through the noise. And isn't that what we all want?
Now, obviously, Luana, you would understand, you know, the people that we end up working with, maybe small to medium businesses, and as you say, nobody wants to attract drama, but whenever people are involved, drama happens. Okay, you could just be, you know, like a lawyer, or you could be a coach, or you could be a trainer, and somebody just leaves heavy things in your gym and they break an arm, and that becomes a media nightmare for you, and nobody's prepared for that. Now,
right,
what sort of work do you do for people, especially just, you know, just getting them ready for any sort of media before it actually happens? Because a lot of people are found on stage. Like, we were laughing about what's her name, the Australian dancer, you know, and she
Reagan, is it?
yeah, Reagan, she just found herself in a media cocktail that she didn't even know how to handle. You know, is there things that people can just maybe get prepared for, just in case? Because if you're dealing with people, drama is just around the corner.
Oh, that is such a great point. And that is something that puts people off PR, is that they worry about the backlash and the noise, you know, and all of that. But my experience of it has been quite different. And I know for a fact that PR helps to keep you safe, not the opposite. And I'll tell you why, because when I had all of this going on, you know, when I ran off, I thought I just wanted it to go away. I wasn't getting bad publicity. It wasn't anything like that, but it attracted a lot of trolls. And at that point, I didn't realize that negative comments doesn't mean that my reputation's in tatters. I didn't realize that because I hadn't reached that point yet. And so what I did was I retreated, like I said, for 3 months. Did it die down in that time? Did the press stories stop coming out? No. What stopped was my control over them. So I refused to talk to journalists. I refused to do interviews, not because I didn't want to do them, but because honestly, I was emotionally broken at that point. But the big lesson that I learned was ignoring a story doesn't make it go away. If the press wants to run with something, the press are going to run with it, whether you're involved or not. People are still going to talk about it. And so these stories that came out without my involvement, I saw them and my reaction was like, oh, that's not what I meant. I didn't say, but it's because I hadn't given them my real thoughts, So what had been taken was lines from documentaries and that kind of thing. I hadn't been able to explain fully what I meant, and things had been. It felt like they'd been taken out of context, but it's because I hadn't given the full picture, So they ran with what they had, and while I was away, the noise didn't stop. It's just that I gave up my control. And after those 3 months, what really, really hit was, this is going to sound a bit cheesy, so forgive me. I don't know how else to put it. But when eagles are flying and the crows are trying to attack, well, they don't go down into the crows to defend themselves or anything like that. They simply glide upwards so that the crows can't reach them anymore. And I don't remember where I saw that analogy, but I remember it really clicking and me going, okay, so what I've done is try to hide. What I actually need to do is rise higher. So then I went back into the media with a bang. I started traveling the world, including Australia, for speaking engagements, for television interviews, radio interviews, and all of that kind of thing. And I really made noise. I started speaking to journalists about my experience with being trolled. I started sharing my stories about what was happening. My first book was published, and I just made a comeback. And I expected a big backlash from that. The backlash never came. It still hasn't come up to now, though I am trolled all the time. So
Luana,
it could be, it could be that the trolls stopped at that point, but I think it's more a case of that I just don't notice anymore. It's probably a little bit of both. So that's when that was a real defining moment, because that's when I realized, okay, it's unsafe. When you get to a certain level, it's unsafe not to get PR, because you have to get PR, because when you reach a certain point, because people are going to talk about you anyway. I'll give you an example. We had a client who was really, really struggling because she'd made a mistake, a genuine mistake. She was in retail and something had gone wrong with an order. Now, these people had been posting on the socials. They'd been making a lot of noise, getting other people involved, claiming she was a scammer and all of that kind of thing. And she had made a mistake, but she didn't know how to deal with it. So originally she hid, then she came to us and we guided her step by step what to do with it. Within an hour, everything had been taken down, and it was just because being in that emotional state, she couldn't think clearly about what she needed to do. And naturally, a human reaction is to want to withdraw. And that was absolutely the wrong thing to do in that situation. Sometimes no reaction can be the best way, but every situation is different and unique. So in her situation, she absolutely needed to stand up and give a statement and be honest and transparent and admit her mistake and say what she was going to do to make up for it. And that's what she did. And the people really respected her for that. Like these people weren't just trolling her just to be nasty, as many trolls are. These people were trolling her because they genuinely believed that they were doing a good thing in warning people against her, because they thought that this mistake was purposeful. So so that got cleared up really quickly, and then she was able to carry on.
That's a really good outcome. I mean, obviously, back in the time when I used to watch TV, I think there still is, there's a show in Australia called The Current Affair, where, paparazzi, not paparazzi, but, journalists just go with a camera. Some business owner has done something, and then they're following them, and they're like, look at them, they're hiding. And the more the person is hiding with their jacket, the cameraman is taking from all angles. And as soon as he just stops like that, the person don't know what to do. And I'm thinking that's exactly what was happening with your client here, because the more you keep hiding, that's when you're giving people more ammunition. What is he or what is she hiding, and things of that nature. But you went on and you started now a very successful PR agency. I mean, with all the success that you've had. But when you started, you didn't have a website initially. What do you think was the actual key to this rapid success? With that, was it because of your name was already out there and people already knew of you, or is it something that you actually had to work to create, even though you didn't have some sort of an internet presence?
So I didn't have well, I was in the media, but nothing to do with PR. Like, I was an actress, I ran an acting academy, so it was a full switch. So, I was used to being out there, but I was switching niches completely. I was going from actors who were just beginning to established business owners. It was a complete different switch. But when I was living in that ditch, like, part of what I wanted to achieve was not just the bookings. I had that, like, I could do that, but I wanted people to really make that PR meaningful and to get the best out of it. So I started testing and tweaking different things. And like, within the first 3 months, when I started, it was a business helping people to create freedom in their businesses. Because at this point, when I'd ran off to the ditch, I had 4 acting academies in the UK, and they carried on running smoothly without me for a while, until eventually I gave them up. But, everything was smooth at that point with the businesses. So that's what I wanted to teach. But there was a module within that was all around media and books. And I found that I didn't want to talk about anything else. But that's the business, that I started testing on, because it didn't feel right to me to go straight into the PR without really being certain that I knew what the process was, what made us different, that we could do what we say that we're going to do. So I worked that out, and I tested it on my own for a few years, and then I got the team together in 2018, and I just went from PR and into a Facebook group, and that worked. And I'd collect my leads from the Facebook group. It's not the strategy that I use anymore, because now I found things that are more effective. But back then, it was enough to take me to 6 figures, and then I've been able to keep growing from there. And I eventually got a website in 2020.
I mean, obviously, you didn't have an address where you properly lived, where you're living in a ditch, and your business also didn't have an internet address.
I did have an address.
Oh.
So this ditch is actually at land. It's on land that we own, which is on the edge of a forest. It wasn't like I just went and chose a spot. We do own the land there. So I had an address, but no building. We had no building. We had Wi-Fi. After we'd been there for a while, we got Wi-Fi and solar power. Initially, we had nothing, but it's quite funny that we got Wi-Fi before we had walls.
Well, that's just part of the story that you will tell one day, and it's quite good you're telling it on the online prosperity show. Now, Luana, do you think your background in the arts actually, or your acting experience actually influenced maybe your approach to PR and media coverage? Because now obviously you have an understanding of, first of all, how to tell a story, and then second, how to actually present that story in such a way that a stranger instantly gets it, because that's what PR really is. They don't have time to figure it out. They just
That's
want to get the
it.
gist of what's going on.
That's it. It's all about communication. And yeah, I wouldn't be here doing this without having gone into acting first. I wouldn't have gone into acting without going into dancing first. Like they've all been absolutely essential parts of the journey. And something a lot of people don't realize about actors is that when an actor's playing a role, like say you're watching, I don't know, Angelina Jolie in something, um, they're not pretending to be a character. What they're doing is drawing out the very, very real part of themselves that enables them to portray that character, but that part of them is in there. Okay, so that really helped me with being able to show up for interviews. That really helped. The improvisation in acting, oh, that is something that absolutely transformed me. And it's something that we've brought into Dauntless PR. We do a monthly session. These are really good fun. They're called Dauntless Roast, and we hire in an actor to play the part of the host from hell, which sounds terrible, but it's done in a safe space. It's done with good fun. It's all great fun, and the host basically challenges them. So it's not designed to mimic an actual real interview. It's designed to push them out their comfort zone, so that, because it's one thing knowing what to do, it's quite another to have their nervous system prepared so that they instantly just go into that without having to think about it. And it's an acting technique. It's an acting technique used by all of the A-listers. It's improvisation, and the people who do these sessions, wow, like they go on debates, they go in front of audiences where people don't already agree with them, and they absolutely shine to the point where I watch them crying, like when they're on TV. I can't help it because I'm so blown away by how amazing they're handling themselves. And it's just so beautiful to see, because I've been there from the beginning when they were saying, I don't know if I can do this, when they're scared. If people are scared and they want PR, they want to get into the spotlight, but they're scared, we can absolutely work with that. So this is one of the things that we do. We gently start pushing them until they are able to go into interviews on any platform. Because look, the bigger reason why we're doing this is for global impact. Where are we going to have the most impact? Speaking to people who already agree with us, or speaking to the people who don't? Well, let's do both. So that's why I feel it is really important to be open to be going on any platform, and that takes practice. Not practicing on podcasts like some people do. No. Practicing in private, shining then when you go on to the interviews.
I like that. See, you've helped a lot of people get featured on major publications like Forbes and BBC, and it's not easy, even though it's just you and the reporter and a camera in front of you, but the whole world is going to be watching this at some point. Maybe can you share an example? Like you said, you watch some of your people on a big stage and you even cry yourself, a transformative result from one of these media features, somebody that, like you said, didn't know what they were doing, and you actually gave the media training, and now they showed up and then they presented themselves in the most eloquent way.
Yes. So one that really springs to mind is a relationship coach who's polyamorous, and she's a relation. Sorry, I'm back. Okay, so the best example that I can give is a relationship coach who is polyamorous, and she was terrified, of going for interviews and that sort of thing. But after we'd done a few of these sessions, she had enough courage to go onto a news station, a very right-wing news station, national in the UK, where she knew they were not going to agree with her. And so that's what she did. And I was just blown away. I was absolutely blown away. And then she got called back. So, like, that's another point. You do well in media, you get called back. And she did. Like, obviously, she was so good that they called her back. And yeah, I think that's been my favorite example. But it's happened with so many, because it is a scary thing to do. Like, because like, okay, well, 2 million people are going to be watching this.
Yep.
But a good tip, though, a good tip for interviews is not to focus on how many people are in the audience, just to focus on one person who is an actual ideal client who you're already working with, but at the point before they started working with you. So somebody who has had great results, somebody who you vibe with, somebody who's really, really excelled working with you and who you love working with as well. And just picture that person as being the only listener.
Yes, because then that really puts you in a frame of mind where you absolutely want what's best for them, and that would then resonate with any other people that are actually listening. Because even though we like to think we're different and unique, we all want the same things. So
Exactly.
I quite
That's it. Where the other, if we're focusing on like 2 million people or whatever, well, we can't speak directly to 2 million people. They're too different. They've got too many opinions. And what that can lead to is the person second guessing what they're saying. They can start toning themselves down to try and make themselves more palatable. Ooh. And basically, they just stop being themselves because they're worrying about too many opinions, where the only person they need to be thinking about is their ideal client. Every other opinion is irrelevant. And your own, of course, your own is very, very much relevant. Your own and your ideal clients.
You see, a lot of business people want to be the authority or want to be the expert in whatever field that they're in. And some of them take, big stages in order for them to get that sort of validation. But what role does media actually play in establishing someone as a credible expert in their field?
If you see somebody on social media talking about how great they are, and then a friend comes and tells you how great somebody is, you're more likely to listen to somebody else, the third party, aren't you? Somebody you already trust. Well, what PR does is that, but kind of on steroids. So it's no longer a friend or, somebody telling you how great somebody is, but it's a big brand or a celebrity who you already know and who you already resonate with. So that has massive power. Like, anybody can be on social media telling everybody how great they are. If somebody backs that up with proof, that's great. Case studies, client results, testimonials, and all of that, fantastic. And then the next level after that, the next level of credibility is, well, people around the globe who are well known, big brands talking about you, and you being positioned among the other elites in your industry. You know, it's like a lot of people say, but there's already so many people talking about my topic. But I promise you, it's only crowded at the bottom. It's not crowded at the top. There's only like that. Not everybody is known as the go-to expert for the media. So if you go into the media and all of a sudden you're there advising celebrities, advising the royals, advising the people who they look up to and admire, then they're going to sit up and pay attention.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if somebody sees, even if I see someone on TV that I know, you take a screenshot and you're like, oh my God, I just saw you on national TV or things of that nature. It just really puts people on a different path. Now, some people may argue and say, like I mentioned earlier on, publicity is publicity. Is it the same as writing a book to elevate your personal brand?
Writing a book is also a great, great thing to do. So PR and a book go hand in hand. The book helps you to get bigger and better PR placements. The PR placements help you to sell more books and get your books read. So they very, very much go hand in hand. We do both. So we tend to start people with PR, get them out, get them known, and then work with them on a book if they don't already have one. And the reason we do it that way is so that there are people then, anticipating and excited about the book. So I would very much recommend doing both. If you don't have either, I would recommend starting with PR for the reasons that I said there, but they very much go hand in hand. The thing that it's different to is PR is adverts. So some people do mistakenly believe that it's the same as a Facebook ad, and some people will try and track it in the same way. So they're looking at those short-term results, leads, sales, click-throughs, that kind of thing. You can't do that with PR. Like if you do that with PR, it's not going to be good for you because you're not going to see it. Like it's indirect and it's a slow burn effect that happens over a period of time as you build your profile, build your credibility. That helps your leads and sales systems work. PR is not marketing. It's the spotlight that shines a light on your marketing to make it more effective. So that's a real common misconception that people have about PR, and a big mistake that they make, and why PR doesn't work for them, or why they think it hasn't worked, because they try to track it like they do an ad, and they expect leads and sales to come directly through their features, which can happen on exception, but it's very much an exception rather than the rule. And so, yeah, but what PR actually does is gradually builds your profile. It's that things that tracking like that cannot pick up are things like somebody on the edge working with you, and then they go and Google you and they see you in Forbes, Psychologies, This Morning, the BBC, all over the place, and they go, okay, well, this person is the real deal, and they get the confidence to say yes. They don't see somebody who saw you in a feature maybe 4 years ago who thought, that's an interesting person, I'm going to go follow them, and then but they didn't need what you had at that time. And then they see something 4 years on. Every time they track, they're very rightly going to credit their leads and sales systems, but they don't. But that tracking doesn't take into account what the PR is doing for them, because it elevates their authority, their credibility. It basically builds trust.
I like that, because when I first arrived in Australia, I was lucky. I got a PR feature, which is about 9 minutes long, and you can only imagine. And I was telling my story and everything else. When I first did it, it didn't mean anything to me. But when I had already set up and put everything together, I'm now putting that video as part of the know, like, and trust. And
That's it.
and
That's it.
and the amount of people that are like, oh my god, now I know your story and how you got started and things like that. But back in the time, I would have just thought, nah, this didn't even do anything for me because I had no use for it. So you literally need to grow into your PR, like you say. So maybe you can explain to us how you sort of tailor the strategy, because each and every person is unique and everybody has different needs and comes from a different background, and they have a different use case and a need for that sort of publicity. How do you tailor it for each individual person that comes your way? Because I know you've got a lot of clients.
Yeah, well, it starts by figuring out exactly what they want, what that person wants, how they want to be perceived, what's important to them, what isn't important to them. And then we take it from there. We work very fast. Like we go for fast results, and then we want them to get the best out of their media as well. Like you say, a lot of people will just go and do that initial appearance and they'll think that that's their job done, but that's where it begins. So we've got a process depending on that client's goal. We've got a process with what the best thing to do with that publicity is. So let's say their focus is they want to build a social platform, or maybe they want to bypass the socials entirely, which is also possible, or they want more clients, so we figure out with them what their goals are as a result of their PR, and then we have a strategy. It's called the Leverage Your Media system. And that is, it needs to be adapted for every person, like you say, because they're unique. They have their own, they know their audience, they know their messaging, they know what their audience is best to respond to. But what it is a checklist of various things to go through, such as, I'll give you an example. Something a lot of people don't think about is that when that interview goes live, let's say it's a relationship coach, and let's say they're talking about polyamory, just because I used that example earlier, so it's on my mind. Well, if this relationship coach has an interview going live about polyamory, then in their best interest, they would be talking about that very same topic on their profile, on their social profiles, when the piece goes live. And the reason is really simple, because they are going to have eyes roaming over them and what they're doing. Are they going to hook that person in while they're there because they were interested in that topic, in this case polyamory? Now, if that relationship coach is talking about something completely different on their socials, they might lose interest because that's not what they came for. It's kind of like PR brings the audience. Like, if you imagine it's like a theatre performance, and PR brings the audience, the marketing is the show. So if you walk into a theatre and you're expecting Lion King and you get Beauty and the Beast, you're probably going to be a bit confused and you may or may not stay. Where if you're getting Lion King, that's what you came for. It's one of my dreams to see Lion King, by the way. I haven't seen it live. Then you're more likely to stay. And then that needs to be intertwined with the marketing, the right sort of marketing kicking into play at that particular time. So as soon as you've been interviewed, there's a whole process to follow. You shelve everything until that piece goes live, and that's when everything gets released, because timing is really crucial as well.
Absolutely, because you don't want to, yeah, you're right. You don't want to create a disconnect where, yes, you've got a whole different subject line on there and it's something else around here. So maybe I missed that part of the memo, Luana, because in my video with the publicity, I had longer hair and dreadlocks and things. And when they
I'll have to
then
watch it.
yeah, and then when they come around and see me, they're like, is this the same person? So obviously that's that's something else. That's something else there. So if people want to have this sort of seamless media sort of expose, because you never know when media, publicity befalls you. It could just happen at any given moment, especially the impulse publicity, and there's also the tailored one that you actually actively pursue. What would be the best way that people can maybe get in touch with you and maybe get started on their own publicity journey?
Yeah, so a really the easiest way of contacting me is on the socials, Luana Ribeira, Facebook. I'm on probably way more than I should. So if you just shoot me a message on Facebook or any of the other profiles, then you can speak to me there, and we just have a little chat, find out if PR is likely to be the right thing for you. And if it is, then the next stage after that would be to invite you on to a free PR planning call where we can go more in depth about your goals, and basically so you can see what PR is likely to look like for your business specifically.
Absolutely. And obviously, I will make sure that all those links are in the show notes below so that people can get started on that journey. Now, Luana, when we first started this call, you introduced us to this shy kid that could not talk, that didn't even, think they were good enough on stage. But I don't think that's the woman that we just spoke to right now. That's a completely different person and things of that nature. So first of all, you have shown us that people can and are able to change. But if you would go back to that time and maybe have a conversation with that shy little girl on stage, what would you tell her, knowing what you know now about publicity and how your life has turned out?
Oh, I've got chills even thinking about that. Because that, I back then I couldn't see how it was possible. I didn't think I was enough. I felt like I had to hide who I was, like I had to be invisible. And I think I would just want to say, they just believe in yourself. I know that's really cheesy, but that's what everything comes down to. The more that we can believe in ourselves, the more that we can project that, and then the more we can help other people as well. People are often scared of going into the spotlight. Some people are scared of looking like they're too up themselves. do you use that phrase in Australia? I don't know if it's just a British thing.
Yeah, now
but people think people can get worried about looking like they think that they're better than other people or whatever, or that they've got ego. But look, the best thing that we can do for other people is to believe in ourselves so that they can benefit from the help that we can give them. And it starts with us believing in ourselves. And that's what I really lacked. And that's what I took so many years in creating, in having to build that. It's been a long and eventful journey. And I'm like really proud that I've done it.
Absolutely. See, so many people don't quite understand that we're here to live, we're here to learn, and we're here to contribute. So for us to be able to live our best lives, we need to learn the lessons from those that have been ahead of us. And for us to be fulfilled, we literally need to contribute. So most of the people that end up in publicity are people that are literally helping others be, do, and have a happier existence. And I usually ask some of my clients when they show up and say, oh, we don't want to do too much, because like you said, in the UK, you've got a statement that says up yourself, or, you want to go ahead of others. In Australia, there's the tall poppy syndrome where,
Yes.
the tall poppy syndrome. I usually just ask myself, I ask my clients, who are you to deny people of the expertise or the work that you are able to give to them by hiding or shying away from the spotlight? So you're possibly putting yourself much higher than all those other people that you could help, and eventually they
100%.
and they just sign the check, and then I earn money. So
bonus. No, that is everything. Like people, the more like ego filled response, I guess, is for us just to be thinking about ourselves. If we can just stop thinking about ourselves for a minute and think about our ideal clients, then the fear starts to. It doesn't go, but we learn to manage it. We learn to bring it along for the ride and use it as motivation instead.
Absolutely. I quite like that. Now, Luana, if if we had an option, we could speak and talk for ages and all day, but I think we're going to be running out of tape soon. I mean, obviously, knowing where you've been and knowing what you've created and what you have now as Dauntless PR. What's next? What can our viewers expect from the stables of Your Highness?
Well, we've just launched a TV channel, Dauntless TV, which is on Amazon Fire. So we're very busy filming. We've got 3 different shows on there at the minute. We've got a 4th on the way. And we're also in the process of starting a podcast called Dauntless Unfiltered. So look out for that.
Wow, that will be an amazing treat. I mean, your life story and your experience have so much value for those that can learn from it. And once people have learned from it, hey, they're now out there to save the world in their own little way. So, with the kind of work that you're doing, the PR that you're doing, the elevation that you're putting people out there, you, my friend, are changing the world in your own little way. So thank you so much for having done the 3 months in the ditch and came back, created something remarkable and amazing. You owe us a book for that.
You are too kind, Prosper. Look, we're all creating an impact, and the fact is we're never going to really see the full extent of that impact, because every bit of impact we create is passed on to the people around them, future generations. Like, we're never going to see that extent of the impact, and that's something that we're all doing.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Luana, for joining us today and sharing your remarkable journey with us. Like you say, the impact has all these ripple effects. And as you said, unless they've deleted the internet, the PR stays for a lifetime. And if somebody has given value in that piece of content, that value will be etched in the minds of people for years and generations to come. So thank you so much. And for those that are watching right now, if Luana's story has inspired you to take a bold step in actually amplifying your own voice, make sure you connect with her and explore the opportunities that Dauntless PR can offer. And if you're brave enough, maybe you can reach out to us and you can also be a guest on the online prosperity show, and we can figure out how we can also help you become a credible speaker out there, or a credible profession based on the publicity that you be able to get. And if you know of a person that is still timid or a little bit shy to put themselves out in the spotlight and their own a business, why don't you just get them to watch this particular episode so that they can know that they're not alone, that they too can be, do, and have a business that's profitable and enjoyable. Until next time, keep thriving, be dauntless, and own your version of prosperity. Bye for now.